What happens if a loser with no mana, bullied by everyone, even his own brother, suddenly gains a skill called Skill Drain that allows him to steal abilities with just one touch? A decade ago, a bizarre inverted castle appeared above Tokyo. Soon after, dungeons began emerging across Japan, and with them, people started awakening mana-based abilities. Those who gained powers, the Awakened, were ranked by the color of their mana. Most possessed a single mana color that revealed their specialty, yet a rare few manifested too. Kurosaki Kai was one of those rare dual wielders, mastering both blue and red mana. Arrogant, powerful, and feared, he was known as the Purple King, one of the nation's top mages. When a monster lunged to rip him apart, Kai didn't flinch. He unleashed Demonic Lance. A spear formed from his energy, annihilating the beast in a single strike. Casually, he walked over, pulled the monster's core, and tossed it to his older brother, Kurosaki Rai, ordering him to collect the rest. Kai, level 89, treated his brother like garbage. Ray was the opposite, pathetic, stuck at level 1, and completely colorless. Being colorless was a rarity, but only in the worst sense. Still, Ray was stubborn. Despite his lack of progress, he refused to abandon his dream of becoming a mage. Out of pity, Kai allowed him to tag along as a porter for his party, and Ray clung to the hope that one day his powers would awaken. The group eventually arrived at the boss chamber, fully expecting an easy victory. The doors opened into a pitch-black hall. Standing before them was a figure that, at first glance, seemed human, but wasn't. It was Kronos, the god of time and space, watching them with a look of sheer boredom. Kai smirked, confident it would be over quickly. He summoned a storm of mana spears and hurled them straight at the god. But Kronos unsheathed a dimensional blade and effortlessly cut them all out of the air. Kai froze in disbelief. In the next instant, Kronos locked onto him, stepped forward, and drove his blade through Kai's skull. The Purple King collapsed lifelessly. The party was paralyzed with shock. Ray's mind went blank. How could one of the strongest mages fall in a single strike? Desperate, the others tried to flee, but Kronos cut them down in moments. Ray crumpled to the floor, despair crushing him. Then, the god finally spoke. His gaze lingered on Ray as he realized there was a completely colorless human among them. He questioned Ray to confirm it, but Ray refused to let it end like this. Forcing his trembling body upright, he clenched his weapon. He hadn't accomplished anything yet, and he couldn't die here. Kronos chuckled at the sight of a powerless human daring to oppose him. Amused, he decided to test Ray's resolve. He conjured orbs of black magic and hurled them at him, crushing Ray in an instant. The hollow purple Toji treatment. Ray's scream faded as his body gave out, but the god frowned, realizing he had gone too far. With a casual gesture, he rewound time. Suddenly, Ray was standing unharmed, as if nothing had happened. Staring in disbelief, he could hardly breathe. Kronos then summoned the hellfire flames of despair, sealing Ray inside a blazing ring. He wanted to see how the boy would respond. Ray knew his basic attacks would be useless, so he grabbed the very blade Kronos had used to slay Kai earlier. Maybe this weapon would make a difference. He charged forward, forcing himself through the inferno. His flesh seared, his skin burning away as he screamed, but he pushed on. Kronos watched with faint amusement until his expression shifted. A sharp pain bloomed in his chest. Ray had actually pierced the heart of a god. Kronos only smirked, then casually rewound time again, restoring everything. Ray dropped to the floor, exhausted. This was hopeless. He couldn't win. Was this truly how he would die? Then it happened. A system window flashed before his eyes. Kronos' overwhelming presence had shattered the seal on Ray's black skill. Even the god looked startled. Ray had gained his very first ability, Skill Drain, and its target was Kronos. The system announced his stolen power. Rewind. Ray's eyes widened. Kronos began to sweat, realizing too late what had happened. Without hesitation, Ray activated the ability. Kronos lunged to stop him, but he was already too slow. This wasn't just a momentary rewind. This was full regression. Time was dragged back years. Ray opened his eyes in shock. He stumbled toward a mirror, and what stared back at him was a much younger version of himself. During regression, a mysterious figure told Ray that he wasn't strong enough to defeat Kronos. That was the reason he entrusted his power to Ray, so one day he could bring the Kronos down. If it really is you, then you should be able to defeat Kronos, the figure said before explaining further. But everything after that moment is a blank in Ray's memory. Back in the present, Ray still questions if he's dreaming. He looks out the window and notices the inverted castle gleaming pure white. Just yesterday, it had been pitch black, and it hadn't shone white since 7 years ago. Back then, it had gradually darkened until it was completely black. The doors opened, and that was when they stepped inside and confronted Kronos. Ray realizes now that he must have stolen Kronos' rewind ability, and it's what sent him back 7 years into the past. To be certain, he checks his phone, and his suspicions are confirmed. He then opens his skill window. Skill Drain is listed there, but the rewind ability has vanished. He doesn't care though. After 10 years of failing to acquire a single skill, he finally has one, and with Skill Drain, the possibilities are endless. Glancing at his phone again, he remembers, today is the Mage exam. Cut to Kyoto Ward, the Mage Association headquarters. Ray steps inside and notices how the building looks completely new, which makes sense if he truly has gone back in time. Almost immediately, God and O get in his face, mocking him and calling him a colorless nobody who has no business being there. Ray remembers them clearly. Back then, he was once part of their party. They were his brother's loyal underlings, and now they sneer at him for daring to take the exam. Even though Ray knows they aren't wrong, he has no talent, and he's failed this test countless times. He doesn't back down. He swats one of their hands aside and walks past, leaving them stunned into silence for once. The exam proctor is Hinata Reina, a B-rank mage, and she is clearly displeased to see him again. She warns him that he'll get himself killed if he keeps insisting, even if this is just an exam. Rei, however, replies that this time is different. They arrive at the dungeon site. She skips the usual explanation since he already knows the process: gather 3 mana stones from goblins. Normally, it's the simplest test for anyone with even a basic skill, but today is different. Today is the day of the infamous incident. Just like in his past, a red cap appears, a monster far beyond this level 1 dungeon, standing at level 37. Hinata panics. Something like this has no reason to be here, and she urges Rei to run. Rei knows full well that she cannot handle such a monster with that kind of level gap. In the original timeline, she fought desperately to protect him and was left so injured that she had to retire. Not this time. Rei refuses to let it happen again. He steels himself and mutters that his weakness was what caused it back then. But this time is different. The red cap rushes in, and Rei hurls his weapon aside. He remembers that red caps enhance their bodies with a skill, making them nearly invulnerable to ordinary attacks. So instead, he closes the distance with his bare hands and slams a punch into its face. The strike only enrages the monster, and it moves in to finish him. But Rei's real aim was never to hurt it with that blow. The system flashes. He's stolen the red cap's body enhancement skill. His stats skyrocket in an instant. Gripping his sword once more, Rei unleashes a clean vertical slash. With just a single swing, he cuts the red cap down. Hinata stood frozen, unable to believe what she had just witnessed. This supposedly weak guy taking down the monster in a single strike. Rei kept a calm expression, but inside he was reeling. The skill drain ability he had just used was far more powerful than he had expected. When Hinata began pressing him with questions, he felt his nerves spike. He couldn't possibly admit to owning a black skill, so he brushed it off with the easiest excuse he could think of, calling it a coincidence. Even so, she clearly didn't buy it. Her face hardened as she announced that the exam would be called off due to the irregular. She promised to log the entire incident and report it to headquarters. Rei bent down and picked up the Mona stone. Irregulars weren't supposed to be appearing this early, and yet here one was. Worse, he still needed 2 more mana stones to qualify. Hinata warned him that now wasn't the time to be careless, reminding him how dangerous the situation was. Before either of them could react further, 2 more goblins emerged boldly from the shadows as if they owned the dungeon, ambushing them. Rei's eyes sharpened as he cut down both creatures in a single swing. That feat, oddly enough, impressed Hinata more than his earlier victory over the red cap goblin. With those kills, Rei had exactly 3 stones, enough to meet the requirement. She still couldn't believe it. The scene shifted to the entrance of the Mage Association. Hinata handed Rei his official license, and he stared at the card in silence, letting the weight of it sink in. After 10 years of repeated failures and being treated as worthless, he had finally done it. He was a mage. Hinata also explained the exchange rates for monster drops. Since they were powerful energy sources, they could be sold for cash. Because Rei had managed to bring down an A-rank monster, his payout was enormous, nearly 3 million. The numbers shocked him, so this was how well mages lived. Even Hinata, usually reserved, ended up cheering for him. Rei, smiling faintly, asked her for one last favor. He soon arrived before a uniquely marked dungeon gate. Pausing, he admired the sight of his name and new rank etched into the records. Before today, entering a dungeon alone was forbidden for him. Now, he could finally step into a future of his own choosing. Just as that thought settled in, a mana hand clamped down on his body. Kai's underlings appeared, smirking as they mocked him for attempting to enter solo. They accused him of breaking the rule. Rei argued that he had passed the exam, but they dismissed his words, calling him a liar. One of them grabbed his head and demanded proof of his so-called talent. The mana hand pinning him was solidified, compressed energy shaped like a hand, and even with his enhancement, Rei couldn't break free. But his legs were unbound. In a flash, he lunged forward, smashing his forehead into the man's nose. Blood spurted as the thug staggered back, and the moment of contact allowed Rei to steal the skill. Freed from the grip, Rei countered immediately, summoning his own mana hand to restrain the same opponent. The men were shocked. He had really awakened a skill. Another assailant hurled a simple fireball at him. Rei responded by activating extreme body enhancement, swatting the fire aside before driving a brutal punch into the man's chest, sending him crashing into a wall. Their shock deepened. Not only did he have more than one ability, but he might even be a dual color user. Rei smirked and told them they were wrong. Summoning a fireball of his own, stolen from the second attacker, he revealed he had even more colors than that. The guys are stunned. They've never even heard of anyone having a third color before. Rei hurls a fireball past them as a warning, releases the bind on the other guy, and calmly asks if they still want to continue. The 2 weaklings exchange a glance before bolting. But the real danger isn't them, it's his brother Kai. If Kai finds out Rei has awakened, he'll hunt him down like last time and force him to obey like a dog. Right now, Kai is already level 50 and among the strongest out there, and things are only getting worse. A dungeon is about to unlock, and Rei needs to level up quickly. He heads in alone, aiming to build skills and expand his mana pool, both of which depend on his level. While walking deeper, a monster shows up, a flame wizard, level 38. Rei's mana is limited. He can barely form a single fireball, while the wizard can unleash several in one go. That's the difference in strength. It casts at him, and Rei fires his own shot to meet it head-on. His fireball cancels only one of the incoming blasts, forcing him to dodge the rest. He quickly realizes a direct clash will not work. Still, there's always an opening. After every skill, the monster has about a 2-second delay. Using that window, Rei rushes in hard. On first contact, he snatches the wizard's fireball skill, its only means of offense. The creature tries to cast again, raising its weapon to begin the spell, but it's already too late. Rei has stolen it. He launches the very same fireball back at the wizard, surrounding it in flames and burning it to ash. The victory boosts him by 4 levels at once, shooting him from level 8 to 12. Stronger monsters give more experience, and with skill drain, they are not as overwhelming. Rei sets a goal reach at least level 30 before leaving this dungeon. He throws himself back into the grind. Another flame wizard falls, followed by a red cap and a lizard warrior. After some time, he manages to climb to level 27, but the pace slows as he pushes toward 30. He needs tougher prey, so he ventures into the deepest chamber, the boss's lair. When he opens the door, a figure steps out of the shadows into the empty arena, a skull demon, flanked by powerful imps under its control. Rei knows facing multiple high-level enemies head-on is reckless, but his ability to steal skills gives him a chance. He activates body enhancement and charges the boss with a heavy punch, but the blow never connects. A mana barrier blocks it completely, and he quickly backs off, realizing the shield prevents skill drain as well, making this fight far more dangerous. The demon lets out a roar and charges forward with terrifying speed. Its strike comes so close it nearly trims his hair. Seeing how this battle is turning out, Rei immediately shifts to his backup plan. He knew he had to strip the monster of something valuable, so he targeted the imps first. Sprinting toward a flying imp, he knocked it straight out of the air, and skill drain rewarded him with Ice Needle. Using a mix of Fireball and Ice Needle, he quickly wiped out the rest of the imps. With no distractions left, he turned his focus back to the boss, only for the skull demon to instantly summon another imp with its magic. That was fine. This was exactly what Rei wanted. He cut down the fresh summon, and immediately hit level 28. The system then notified him that he now qualified for skill synthesis. That had been his goal all along. The skull demon roared in anger while Rei began casting Ice Needle and Fireball at the same time, activating the synthesis process. The two spells fused together, forming a brand new unique skill. With his new weapon in hand, he leapt high into the air and dove straight at the skull demon. As expected, the creature raised its mana barrier to block him. Rei did not hesitate. He pierced forward with Fire Lance. The attack slammed into the shield, overloaded it, and shattered it into pieces. Bursting through, Rei even managed to acquire the mana barrier skill for himself. He powered up again and charged forward, stripping the demon of its body enhancement skill and leaving it defenseless. Without wasting a second, he unleashed another Fire Lance, driving it straight through the demon's chest. The skull demon erupted in crimson flames before collapsing, defeated. From its remains dropped a green mana stone, and Rei leveled up 4 times in quick succession. By the end of the battle, he stood at level 33, finally pausing to catch his breath. He needed that breakthrough. Skill synthesis allowed separate abilities to merge into far stronger ones, usually becoming available around level 30. Rei had not been sure he could pull it off, but relief washed over him when it worked. Not long after, another system message appeared, informing him that he now met the condition to enhance skill drain. Previously, he could only store 3 skills. Now, his limit had increased to 5, making it far more useful. Back at headquarters, Rei handed over the skull demon's mana stone, leaving Hinata speechless. He had just soloed a high-level boss and skyrocketed to level 33 in a single day. When Rei brushed it off with the excuse of being lucky, Hinata immediately told him to stop capping. Nobody could grind that fast in one day. Still, she did bring good news. He qualified to be ranked B with no conditions attached. Before Rei could respond, a familiar voice cut in. It was Kai, the so-called Purple King. He refused to accept that his colorless, pathetic little brother could be ranked B and dismissed it as a mistake or dumb luck. Hinata, though nervous, stood her ground and defended Rei, insisting he had defeated both the Red Cap and the Skull Demon on his own. Kai narrowed his eyes, glaring death at Rei, and demanded to know if it was true. Without waiting for an answer, he swung an enhanced punch straight at him. The blow shook the entire room, drawing everyone's attention. Yet the strike never landed. Rei stood calmly behind his guard, glaring back, and coolly called him out, telling him his reckless actions were dangerous. Kai realizes the rumors were true. Ray really had awakened. Kai lowers his fist, claiming that one skill will not change a thing. He declares that he will test Ray's strength personally and essentially calls for a fight. Hanada, looking uneasy, asks if Kai is serious. Kai replies that if Rai truly is a B rank, it should not matter. Even then, he insists he would defeat him regardless and accuses Ray of cheating his way up. Kai's provocation works, and Ray accepts the challenge. He knows backing down now will only make things worse, so despite the difference in levels, he locks eyes with Kai and agrees, something Kai clearly did not expect. The two head to the Mage Association's arena. Ray braces himself, fully aware he is only level 30, while Kai stands at level 50. That means Ray must be far more careful with his mana consumption. Kai can juggle up to 5 skills at once, and in a direct clash, that advantage is his. The battle begins quickly, and Ray knows he needs to close the gap fast. He conjures an ice needle while Kai summons 4 fireballs. They collide midair and explode. Kai is shocked that a single ice needle could match his fireballs. Before he can react, Ray surges forward with body enhancement activated, forcing Kai to recognize him as a dual wielder. Ray closes the distance, aware Kai likely has just enough mana left for one more skill. Activating skill synthesis, Ray merges 2 abilities, one blue and one red, revealing that he can command 3 colors. Instead of panicking, Kai actually smiles. Just as Ray's strike is about to land, Kai unleashes a fireball that crushes the fused attack and sends Ray flying. Ray is stunned that a simple fireball could overwhelm his synthesized skill. Kai, meanwhile, understands why Ray seems so confident. It is his ability to wield multiple elements. But in Kai's eyes, that is meaningless when the gap in strength is so massive. He conjures more fireballs and hurls them at Ray. Ray dashes aside, creating distance, then launches a fire lance, but Kai does not budge. A single fireball wipes out the lance and continues forward. Ray throws up a mana barrier, yet it still cracks under the impact, blasting him back. At this point, Kai is overpowering him with almost no effort, while Ray's attacks barely scratch him. Certain of victory, Kai offers mercy if Ray kneels and admits his mistake. Ray's frustration builds. He cannot alter his skills or expand his mana pool mid-fight. For a brief moment, surrender seems like his only option. But then he remembers the future he lived through, 10 long years as a slave under his brother. That memory ignites his resolve, and he shouts that he will not kneel. Hearing this, Kai's anger flares. Deciding to end it, he resolves to kill Ray if necessary. He activates Overclock, boosting his fireball to immense power at the cost of heavy mana. With the blazing sphere in his hand, Kai demonstrates what a king-level mage is capable of. 10 fireballs ignite around him, making it obvious Ray has no chance. Ray recognizes it immediately. It is the same overwhelming force that made his brother one of the most feared. Kai can channel more mana at once than any other king-ranked mage. Even so, with the odds stacked against him, Ray declares that this was exactly what he had been waiting for. He charges straight at him. That barrage of 10 fireballs only works with Overclock active, and Overclock comes with a cooldown. Ray leaps into the air, and Kai laughs, calling him a fool for putting himself in the worst possible position, midair with no way to dodge, before unleashing the entire barrage at him. But this was exactly what Rai had been waiting for. At last, he reveals Mana Hand, a technique he had kept hidden until now, and slams it against the ground. Kai freezes in shock, stunned that Ray had another secret skill. To Ray, it makes no difference whether it is 10 or 20 fireballs. If they miss, they are useless. Using the anchored Mana Hand, he yanks himself down at full speed and slips behind Kai, who, even as a king, cannot escape the downtime on his ability. In that tiny opening, Kai is completely exposed. Ray steps forward and smashes him across the face, driving the king into the ground. On top of that, Ray snatches Kai's overclock for himself. With that, Kai has already lost his advantage. Kai staggers back up, cursing under his breath, and Ray can tell he is not finished. Enraged, Kai channels his purple energy into an icicle, unveiling his strongest ability, Demon Lance. Ray stiffens. That is the most powerful purple element skill, and he never imagined Kai would possess it this early. Kai hurls it forward, and Ray barely slips aside in time. The lance is fast, devastating, and Kai can summon more of them whenever he wants. That earlier blow had only landed because Kai underestimated him. Now that the Purple King is serious, Ray realizes the power gap is overwhelming. The demonic lances continue chasing him, forcing Rai to dodge by mere inches until his back slams against the wall. Kai still has more than enough mana to end it. Desperate, Ray launches a fire lance, only for Kai to counter with another demon lance. The collision erupts in a violent explosion, blasting Ray into the arena wall and leaving a crater in his wake. Barely on his feet, Ray listens as Kai mocks him mid-fight, reminding him why he bears the title of Purple King and ranks among the strongest alive. Ray cannot deny it. Kai sneers further, ridiculing him for getting cocky just because he can wield a wide variety of skills. But that insult sparks something in Ray's mind. He cannot hope to win with brute force or sheer quantity of abilities. What if the key lies in unlocking the true potential of the purple skill? Up until now, he had only ever managed 2-color synthesis, limited by his mana capacity. Determined, Ray activates Overclock and forces himself beyond his normal limits. Kai's eyes widen in disbelief as Rai uses the same technique. Suddenly, with his mana output doubled, Rai triggers an evolution no one else has achieved before: skill synthesis black. This is exactly the breakthrough he needed. Ray smirks, and for the first time, Kai looks unsettled, realizing Ray's mana capacity has skyrocketed. Power gathers in Ray's hand as he prepares something unprecedented: a 3-color synthesis. He fuses his red fireball, blue ice needle, and yellow enhancement into one, forging a purplish-black energy. Kai is floored. Black mana. Such a thing does not exist in this world. Everyone knows mana comes only in blue, red, or yellow. Ray once believed he could not even handle a single color, but he had been wrong. His body can contain all three. Now, he stands tall as the Dark Mage, ready to bring an end to Kai's reign. Kai breaks into a sweat and hurls a purple lance straight at Ray's head, desperate to stop him before things spiral out of control. Ray doesn't even flinch. With his dark magic, he shatters the attack and charges forward. Feeling cornered by Ray's sudden surge of power, Kai quickly forms a massive icicle to counter the dark sphere gathering in Ray's hand. But Ray doesn't hesitate. He unleashes Abyss Flame. It collides with Kai's enormous purple lance. Watching the clash, Kai realizes with dread that his attack is being overwhelmed. A violent explosion erupts, and when the dust finally clears, Ray is the only one left standing. He glances around and sees Kai lying unconscious on the ground. Ray can hardly believe it. He actually defeated his brother. At that moment, a system window appears. New skill obtained. Abyss Flame has officially been added to his inventory, marking a major step forward. Hinata rushes over and checks on Ray first, demanding to know what kind of attack that was. Ray signals that he's fine, and, deciding there's no point in hiding it much longer, he chooses to show off a little. He reveals a glimpse of his black power and admits it is basically a black skill. Hinata's eyes widen in shock. He is the first and only person in the world to wield such a power. Ray then asks if he is supposed to report it to the association, though he would rather keep it quiet to avoid unnecessary trouble. Hinata shakes her head, saying that is not the point. He is about to throw away a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Ray doesn't immediately understand, so she explains. The strongest mage of each color earns the title of king. Since Ray is the only black mage, he could be crowned the Black King immediately. Ray considers it, but he isn't interested in that right now, especially since his level is far below the other kings. He lets it pass. Casually, Ray then asks, "By the way, is my brother dead or what?" Hinata, completely calm, replies, "Kings heal fast," and tells him she will bring Kai to the medical wing. Before either of them can move, both of their phones buzz with a critical alert. A dangerous dungeon has just appeared with a recommended level of 70. Ray's eyes light up. It is finally here, the Ikebukuro dungeon. The current kings are only around level 50 at best. In the original timeline, during the first week, the kings had realized how powerless they were against that dungeon. They abandoned it, which led to catastrophe. Red monsters poured out in waves. That event became known as the first dungeon collapse. A collapse occurs when a dungeon is not cleared within a certain time limit, allowing its monsters to break free. Right now, no one even knows collapses exist, or that ignoring a dungeon could unleash its horrors outside. Back then, the Ikebukuro dungeon became the first recorded collapse and break, claiming countless lives. Tokyo was devastated by powerful monsters, and only a handful survived. This time, Ray refuses to let history repeat itself. He declares that he will stop the collapse. Hinata is alarmed, warning him that even with his skills, it is far too dangerous. On top of that, only A-rank mages and above are permitted to enter a dungeon with such a high recommendation level. Fortunately, they still have some time before the collapse happens. The next A-rank evaluation is in a week, right? Ray asks. Hinata confirms. Determined, Ray makes up his mind. He will crush the test and secure his A rank in the upcoming examination. When Ray shared his bold ambitions, Hinata nearly jumped in surprise. An A rank promotion. With your skills, you might actually pass the exam, she remarked. Ray, however, stayed composed and asked what the issue was. Hinata explained that to even qualify for the A rank exam, he first needed to conquer a B rank dungeon with a team. In short, Ray had only a week to gather a party and clear the dungeon. A little later, Ray was seen slouched on a bench, eyes fixed on his phone. "I completely forgot," he muttered under his breath. His inbox was overflowing with ridicule. Word had already spread that he was colorless, and because of that, no one wanted to join forces with him. Still, he knew he had to find some way to finish the dungeon. As he was lost in thought, a conversation nearby caught his ear. A small group of girls were gathered, with 3 standing before one, and their leader clearly wasn't happy. "I only accepted you because you're dual-colored, but your fire ability is pathetic," the leader sneered. The girl lowered her head and apologized. Ray let out a quiet sigh as he stood. It was a scene he would rather not witness, one that dragged up his own memories of being treated as nothing more than dead weight. He knew that pain all too well. The leader went further, outright calling the girl trash. Ray's eyes widened in recognition. It was Ichinose, the very same girl who in the future would come to be known as the Scarlet King. Yet here she was, belittled by her own party for being weak. Even knowing that, Ray was shocked to see how badly she was treated. Ichinose's voice trembled as she explained that if she were expelled, she wouldn't be able to cover her sister's hospital expenses. She pleaded that she would try harder. Her leader gave her a cold ultimatum to prove herself in today's raid, or be cut loose. Ichinose agreed with a shaky nod, vowing to do her best. As her group left, Rei lingered, uneasy. He knew Ichinose would one day become the Scarlet Queen, but he also recalled that before then, disaster struck. Around this very period, she suffered a terrible injury in a boss fight that left her in a coma for years. The thought struck him suddenly, could that be today? Something about her demeanor earlier didn't sit right with him. Urgency flared in his chest, and Rei rushed off without hesitation. Meanwhile, Ichinose and her party reached the boss chamber. Their opponent was a level 45 Dullahan. With a sly grin, the leader announced she had an idea, then abruptly shoved Ichinose forward. Fight it alone, she ordered. Stunned, Ichinose protested that she couldn't possibly defeat a Dullahan on her own, but the leader only smirked. In that case you're out, she replied casually. Then, twisting the knife further, she added, you're doing this for your little sister, aren't you? Ichinose lowered her head, voice heavy with resignation. She agreed and stepped forward to face the Dullahan, while her so-called teammates watched with smug expressions. She conjured a fireball and hurled it at the monster. The attack landed, yet the Dullahan didn't even flinch. Panic set in. The creature advanced, striking at her with terrifying speed. She managed to dodge but was knocked back violently. Before she could recover, it lunged again, preparing to end her. As it raised its weapon, Ichinose closed her eyes, despair flooding her thoughts. I knew it. I really am useless, she admitted to herself. At that instant, Rei burst onto the scene, shouting extreme body enhancement. His body flared with power as he intercepted the blow, halting the Dullahan's strike. Ichinose's eyes widened in disbelief. Rei then gathered his strength and unleashed a single, crushing attack that sent the monster flying across the chamber. Turning back to her, he asked firmly if she was all right. The party stood frozen, staring in shock. Who is that? The leader asked a node. Dullahans were known as some of the heaviest monsters, yet he had knocked it back with nothing more than a sword strike. Their disbelief only grew when the Dullahan roared and rose again. As expected, that single blow wasn't nearly enough. Its armor was reinforced with a strengthening skill. Ordinary attacks wouldn't be able to break through. With that in mind, he rushed forward. The Dullahan swung its blade in a wide arc, but he slipped just past it. Then I'll just steal the ability and shut it down, he muttered, reaching out while activating skill drain. His hand touched the Dullahan, yet nothing happened. The protection skill hadn't even activated. The Dullahan retaliated immediately, and Rei caught the strike, forced several steps back from the impact. Ichinose shouted, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," he replied, steadying his breath. His sharp gaze swept over the monster. The armor was only an exterior shell. To steal the skill, he would need to reach its true body. The Dullahan suddenly plunged its sword into the ground, unleashing a surge of green energy. Rei quickly moved in front of Ichinose, yelling at her to stay behind him, and raised a barrier just in time. The shockwave was so fierce it blasted the other party members off their feet. The leader managed to fire an ice needle at the Dullahan, but it brushed the spell aside with ease and immediately retaliated, crushing her magic and sending another wave of energy straight at her. This time it struck directly, knocking her back hard. Rei noted at once that ice needle was useless against it. "If that's the case," he said, sheathing his sword, "I'll need something far stronger than its reinforcement skill." Rei summoned the Abyss Flame, and as the Dullahan charged again, it hurled another shockwave at him. He countered with his spell, the black fire tearing straight through the attack and striking the monster at terrifying speed. The explosion swallowed the Dullahan whole, blasting it apart in a single strike. As the smoke cleared, the creature vanished, leaving only a mana stone behind. Ichinose, still stunned that it had been defeated in one blow, called out in relief and thanked him. Rei simply answered that he was glad she was unharmed. When his eyes fell on the crystal, he realized it was exactly as described in the timeline he remembered, and felt a surge of satisfaction that he had changed what was supposed to happen. The leader staggered to her feet, more frustrated than ever. She couldn't understand what was going on. Muttering that he might be strong, but the prize should still belong to her, she nearly drooled at the thought of claiming their crystal. She shouted that since the mana stone had dropped in the dungeon her party had registered for, it belonged to them, and ordered him to hand it over. Ichinose protested, saying Rei had saved them, but Rei himself remained indifferent. He offered to give up the stone on one condition: if Ichinose joined him. His words left everyone stunned, even Ichinose herself. Rei met her eyes and added softly that it would only be if she was willing. The leader burst into laughter and immediately agreed, saying she didn't care for Ichinose anyway, and pressed her to accept. Clenching her fists, Ichinose answered, "Understood. I'll be in your care from now on." Before anyone else could react, the leader snatched the stone and strode away. She sneered at the idea that worthless Ichinose could be worth so much, mocking the exchange in her head. Rei watched her go silently, knowing Ichinose was far from dead weight. Ichinose turned back to him, thanking him for taking her in, but admitting she was afraid of slowing him down. Rei extended his hand to her with a calm smile, and promised she would one day surpass the very people who had abandoned her. She's caught off guard, and wonders what he means by her getting stronger. He explains that he had seen her at the association earlier, and happened to overhear their conversation. Remembering that moment makes her mood sink, but Rei believes he can be her support. He extends his hand toward her, and after hesitating nervously over his words, she suddenly shifts her mood mood and agrees with confidence, telling him that she'll be relying on him from now on. Rei responds that he feels the same. The following day, standing at the dungeon gate, Rei says, "Let's clear a B-rank dungeon." Ichinose asks if doing that means they'll be eligible for the A-rank exam afterward. He nods in confirmation. Not only that, he adds, but there's also a key inside that will help her grow stronger. A key, she repeats, then quickly thinks that if she becomes stronger and advances in rank, she'll finally be able to pay for her sister's medical bills. Rei says, "Alright, let's go." She gives a firm nod, and the two head inside. The dungeon turns out to be a cavern of shining crystals. Ichinose spots movement, and soon they are confronted by black wolves whose sharp eyes are already fixed on them. Brimming with confidence, tells her to leave it to him. He activates extreme body enhancement and cuts the wolves down with ease. Ichinose can only stare shocked. Her former party with Ayama had been strong, but Rei was operating on an entirely different level. The difference was incomparable. They advance deeper until Rei says they have arrived. "I'll back you up, just do it the way we planned," he tells her, stepping forward. The strategy is for her to fight through as many monsters as possible to level up quickly. For now, she only has basic spells, but she has no choice except to give it her all. As monsters close in, she hurls a fireball. Rei stays behind, quietly observing, calling this a test to see whether she'll awaken to her own strength. When a monster attempts to sneak up from behind, Rei instantly intercepts it, determined not to let anything disturb her. Ichinose continues battling, though she takes a hit to her left arm. Anxiety creeps in as her mana starts dwindling. No matter how many she defeats, more and more monsters appear. At this pace, she'll exhaust her mana soon. Glancing back, she sees Rei fending off a pack of red hats to ease her burden. She clenches her resolve, telling herself she has no right to complain. She has to live up to his expectations. As her level rises, she notices something strange. Her mana isn't depleting anymore. Rei observes her closely, realizing that prolonged fights actually suit her well. Her immense mana pool is her greatest weapon. Then, a system message flashes before her eyes. She has unlocked a new skill, Blast Furnace. When they finally reach the boss chamber, a colossal level 52 slime awaits them. Rei charges in and shouts for her to use her new ability. Though unsure, Ichinose immediately activates Blast Furnace. Flames erupt and coil around her, and she looks on in awe. She can hardly believe this overwhelming power is her own. The skill greatly amplifies firepower at the cost of high mana consumption, but it's a perfect match for her abilities. She unleashes a devastating spell at the slime, the impact massive. Rei, watching, is stunned. It's even stronger than he anticipated. With such a vast mana pool combined with Blast Furnace, he's convinced she's destined to become the Scarlet Queen. After the boss collapses, Rei says, "Nice work." Still catching her breath, Ichinose smiles, her face flushing, and admits she's just as surprised. But it's all thanks to him. As they prepare to leave, the camera lingers on the enormous crater her magic left in the wall. Later at the association, Ichinose reports that they've completed the requirement to qualify for the A-rank exam. Rei agrees. At last, the time has come for the promotion test, and he is determined to pass, no matter what. As they head down the hallway, someone suddenly blocks their path. It is her former party leader, sneering as she remarks that she never thought someone as useless as Ichinose would even dare to take the exam. Ichinose freezes, unsure of how to respond, but Rei steps forward confidently, acting like the alpha male, and tells them off without hesitation. Ichinose reminds herself that she will not lose to the very people who once forced her to fight alone. The girl scoffs, claiming she now has far better companions. Then, out of nowhere, a real powerhouse appears, Ano Yuri. She declares that neither Rei nor Ichinose could ever hope to defeat her. Rei immediately recognizes her, first by her rather noticeable figure, and more importantly because in his previous life she was famous for casually soloing high-level dungeons whenever she felt like it. Back in the present, Yuri narrows her eyes and studies him carefully. Rei estimates that she is probably around A rank at this stage. After analyzing him, she smirks and says, "Young man, you seem interesting." For Rei, this feels like hitting the jackpot. Ichinose, confused, asks Rei what is going on and why Yuri is acting like she is flirting with him. Yuri pauses, then realization dawns. Kurosaki Rei. He must be Kai's younger brother. She mentions she heard Kai was defeated by someone and demands to know if it was Rei. Shocked, Ichinose turns to Rei and asks if that is true. Yuri then turns to leave but throws one last remark over her shoulder, saying that even so, Rei could never best her. Rumors of the Purple King have spread, and she doubts Rei measures up. As Yuri walks away, Rei watches intently, already fired up for the future clash. At the training ground, the examiner announces that combat skills will be tested against an artificial golem, stronger than the usual stone type, simply because they can. Rei's name is called first. Facing the golem as it unsheathes its blade, Rei channels fire magic. The onlookers whisper, calling him a fool for using flames against a golem, but Rei rushes in, slipping past its strike, then activates his synthesis skill to forge a fiery lance, driving it straight into the golem's body. With a single blow, the creature collapses as smoke rises, leaving even the examiner dumbfounded. Everyone stares in shock. He had destroyed it in one strike, and with a dual-colored attack at that. Even Yuri raises a brow, muttering, "Not bad," before continuing to observe. Next, it is Ichinose Ichinose's turn. Her mana pool is tested by placing her hands on a crystal. Her old leader glares at her, telling her she should be ashamed for even trying. Ichinose places her hands on the crystal, and immediately a massive burst of fire erupts, engulfing the area. The crowd gasps in disbelief, questioning who this girl really is. Her former leader, shaken, shouts that she must be cheating. Finally, the mock battles begin. First match, Ichinose versus her ex-leader, Ayama. Ichinose steadies her nerves while Ayama, burning with rage, prepares to crush her. The signal is given. Ayama instantly fires 3 ice needles, but Ichinose counters with a single massive fireball, engulfing the attack and exploding with force. Ayama staggers back, stunned that Ichinose possesses such destructive power. Still reeling, Ayama prepares a counter, but Ichinose keeps launching fireballs without pause. Ayama hastily throws up a mana barrier, sneering that she should not be underestimated and calling her foolish for relying on something so simple. Yet the relentless barrage keeps hammering the barrier. Ayama begins to sweat. Why is the attack not stopping? Ichinose's mana pool is enormous. She can keep firing endlessly until the defense collapses. At last, the barrier shatters. One fireball nearly hits Ayama as she scrambles away, only for a piece of stone blasted into the air to crash down and knock her out cold. Ridiculous as it looks, the fight is over. The examiner announces Ichinose as the victor. Rei congratulates her, and she thanks him, wishing him luck in his match. Then Rei meets Yuri's gaze across the field, finding her already watching and waiting. Rai and Yuri step into the arena. No surprise, they're up against each other. What a luck. Yuri asks why he's even taking the exam, saying he looks far more prepared than the others. Rei gives a vague answer. He has something important he must accomplish, so stopping here isn't an option. Yuri falls silent, mulling over his words, then warns him that she's strong. Rei acknowledges it, but adds that he'll win regardless. As the fight begins, Yuri immediately activates mana conversion, unleashing a storm of mana swords, so many that the arena can't seem to contain them, and launches them at Rei. He parries and dodges, astonished that she possesses such a rare and overpowered skill, one that lets her manipulate mana at will. Suddenly, something feels off. A colossal blade drops from above, and he barely leaps out of the way in time. Yuri praises his quick reflexes, but Rai is already charging in with his sword. She isn't about to let him through though, and counters with another barrage. Rei raises a mana barrier, deflecting the storm, and swings back, his strike narrowly missing. Yuri flips into the air to evade him. Rei doesn't waste the chance and fires his dual-colored fire lance. She blocks with mana conversion, just managing to hold it off. Rei calls her defense flawless, her strength exactly what he expected, while Ichinose cheers for him from the sidelines. Yuri surges with energy again, sending out waves of mana spears, and challenges him to deal with them. Rei keeps slipping through and pushing closer, though he admits to himself the situation is turning troublesome. Yuri taunts that running won't help him win, then calls checkmate, surrounding him from every angle with spears. They're about to close in when Rei glances back and activates body enhancement at the last possible moment, shredding the spears to pieces. Yuri freezes, then grins broadly. She's never seen anyone wield 3 colors of mana before. She announces she can use body enhancement as well and tells him to end it here, conjuring a mana scythe. In a blur, she dashes forward and suddenly appears behind him. Rei barely reacts, spinning and clashing with her weapon, noting her frightening speed. The two exchange a storm of blows. Yuri drives him back toward the edge, then comes down with a devastating strike that forces him to retreat. Her power is insane, and Rei realizes he needs to switch tactics. He lunges upward, grabs her left arm, and she scoffs, saying it's pointless even if he caught her hand. But then her expression shifts, she can feel it. Rei has stolen her extreme body enhancement. Her strength begins to drain away, and she's left wondering what just happened. Rei slams his palm against her stomach. The impact is crushing, shockwaves rippling through her body. She coughs, staggers, and barely manages to mutter about him hiding his gem before collapsing. Rei is declared the victor. The following day, in a hospital room, Yuri wakes to find Rai and Ichinose visiting. She admits she never thought he'd be that strong and confesses she was utterly defeated. Curious, she asks what he wants. Surely he didn't come just to brag about his promotion. Rei, blunt as always, immediately asks if she'll join their party. No build-up, no hesitation. Yuri just stares at him, stunned. They explain she was promoted to A rank thanks to her performance in the match, and they need her strength to tackle high-difficulty dungeons. Yuri bursts out laughing, even tearing up as she calls Rei truly fascinating. She says following him sounds far more fun, so she'll be in his care, officially joining the team. But before the moment can sink in, the room begins to tremble. Ichinose wonders aloud if it's an earthquake. Rei turns to the window. The sky has turned blood red. His eyes narrow. This is far worse. Somewhere, locked in a dim cell, the god Kronos dangles in chains. With a manic smile, Kronos mutters, "At last, the time has come." If you're excited for the next part, leave a comment, and I'll do my best to bring it to you as soon as possible.